Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So in this one I want to talk to you about buying second-hand gear, mainly lenses, but we will go a little bit into cameras. I won't go a huge amount, but just what I look at when I come to buying gear. I think it's something that's really quite beneficial, and since most of my setup that I have, pretty much all my Hasselblad stuff is second-hand. I bought it internationally, I bought it locally, and I want to show you how I buy my gear, or how I inspect the gear before buying, but when it also comes to buying online, what to look for as well. So yeah, let's get stuck in. So yeah, this can apply to anything. If you've got an entry-level system, or you've got a professional system, you've got very expensive cameras, like this Hasselblad H4D. When it was new, it was $30,000 Australian. You can pick these up for about $4,000, even a little bit cheaper at times. But yeah, so want to sort of go into that, and you've got to be more critical as well with the higher end stuff, because if it goes wrong, if there's any problems with it, it's going to be much more expensive to fix. So I've got a little note sheet down here, just the stuff I've just jotted down, and if I can think of anything else along the way, I'll throw it in. So yeah, when it comes to buying gear, I'm just trying to think of what lens to get, because I've also got film cameras as well. Maybe I'll go with like the film camera first. Check over the body, make sure there's no like sort of imperfections, maybe some like bubbling paint and stuff like that. It normally means that there's moisture that's been shot around salty conditions, and the sea, or the salt air and salt water has got underneath. It's just just over time it sort of develops, and you start to see paint peeling around. You also get it more on bodies like that are magnesium alloy, because salt water really breaks down magnesium alloy, like the Canon series. The Canon 6D Mark II has a bit of a magnesium alloy, the 5D, the 1DX and stuff like that. They have all magnesium alloy. I'm not sure about the new ones. I think they're more like a polycarbonate sort of thing. Yeah, I know they're quite light and quite, they don't feel as cold to the touch as they used to. So what I'm going to go into first, I think we covered a little bit there, but so I'll pick up one of my lenses at the moment. So this is actually a lens I picked up locally. Everything else I bought used. So I'm just going to make sure. So what you want to make sure is the lens that is advertised on the advert is the lens that they are selling, and look at the images as well. And this is also if you're buying online. So make sure it matches up. I've seen adverts, say on Gumtree. Actually, there was a guy on Gumtree who was selling a Canon 70-200 2.8 IS-L version 3, he said it was listed as. But since I know my gear quite well, I could see it was a non-IS version of that lens. And he was saying, no, I've got the box and everything to prove it. I could see the digits on the top, on the outside of the lens at the top. Don't know if I've got a Canon lens. Oh no, I've got this one I can show you. My 11-24 that I'm actually selling, which was a bit of an impulse buy, and now don't really need it. So yeah, it shows me that it's a 11-24 mil. My aperture is f4, so 1 to the ratio of 4, which is a f4 lens. So I won't go into the specifics about how lenses work, and like gathering ability is a little bit complicated. But yeah, so that's a 1 to the ratio of 1 to the ratio of 4. So yeah, it's 4 stops of light basically. Yeah, I won't go into it because it confuses me a little bit as well, even though I've been doing this for a very long time. But I don't really get into the specifics. I just basically go out there and use the gear. So yeah, you want to make sure the lens matches the description. If they say the lens is in excellent condition, look at the lens. Does it have any imperfections? So this is more for when we're online, and then I'll go in a little bit when you're in person, but it also applies to both. It's just there's other checks you can do when you're in person. So make sure the outside of the lens is in really good condition. Check that there's no like missing paint, no scuffs, no dents or anything like that, because that can be an indication of how hard the lens has been used, if it's been mistreated and stuff like that. If you don't see any marks and everything looks really good, then it's been well looked after. But there are other indications of showing what the lens is like. So I've got a lens here actually, my Hasselblad 150mm lens. So this one's actually had a bit of a tough life. It doesn't look it too badly, but it's more like on the inside of the lens. So what you want to get, and this goes to checking for all your lenses, is get yourself a direct light source. So like a torch, or use something on your phone. Point it towards something dark, so like a corner or something like that. And what you want to do is make sure you've got a clean front element and clean rear element when you do this. And what you want to do is I'm grabbing this lens because it's nice and easy and I can easily show you. So you want to get the light on. We'll probably choose that sort of light. And what you want to do, take off the rear cap as well, that helps. And you want to shine it through the lens so you can see what's going on. Then you can actually look through and see what debris there is, and also if there's any mold or fungus. If there's mold or fungus and the lens they're asking, the price they've got it up for is basically the price is what they're charging, or what everyone else is charging, don't buy it. And also because it's going to be very expensive to repair, what you've got to basically do is it's got to get sent off, the lens has got to be completely dismantled to get to that element, and also make sure it hasn't gone to other elements. So they've got to do checks. Then it's got to be cleaned, then it's got to be calibrated, and it's normally quite expensive. So you're looking a few $100s to $1,000, if not more. So yeah, be wary of that. And if you do choose to use a lens which has a fungus or mold inside, be very wary, because that fungus or mold, if used on your camera for a long period of time, can actually go on to the inside of your camera and affect your sensor, and then cause much bigger problems and probably basically write off your camera. I've always been wary and never bought lenses like that. There was a time recently when I was going through like this on my phone. I used my phone when I was at a market meet, and I noticed this lens, and it was quite cheap. I noticed there was a bit of dust on the outside, and I noticed there was a bit of bit damaged on the outside, but it felt smooth and everything looked fine. And I was going to hand over the money, and then I decided to get my light out and just shine it through, and I could see these little branches of fungus. I'm not sure if it was dead or alive still. It was very far into the lens, so it was a bit distorted when I was zooming in and having a little look around. And then I went with my gut, and I went, you know what, I don't think this is worth having, and it could be a more of an expense in the long run, or I might not be able to sell it and I just have to scrap it basically. So yeah, definitely not worth it. So that is my advice on that front. But when it comes to being able to physically check the camera, or check the lens, make sure, I'm going to find a lens which actually, maybe I'll go my Hasselblad HCD 35-90, because I've got both rings here. So make sure the zoom, hang on, I'm going to turn my fridge off. I've got a little camping fridge in here where I keep some nice cold drinks. Yeah, so make sure the zoom ring focuses nice and smoothly. This one is a little bit tight because it hasn't actually been used that much. Well, hasn't been used much. So this is from about 2015 or 2005, I think it was. I looked up this lens, and it's only taken about 300 shots in its lifetime, which is very, very low. And the reason why I know how many shots it's taken is because the shutter's in the lens, and my camera body, it tells me how many photos this has taken. So yeah, it's quite stiff, but it's good, and it doesn't feel like there's anything catching. That's what you want to feel for. You want to make sure it's nice and smooth. It doesn't stop, it doesn't get stiff at certain points. If it gets stiff at certain points, or it feels a little bit rough, there could be something behind the zoom ring, or you could have it where it's been dropped and it's been just dented a bit there, or it could be around some of the areas, so that's something to be cautious about. And do the same for the zoom ring, focus ring. What you also want to do, make sure you grab the focus, maybe remove the caps as well for this. So when holding the zoom and focus ring, just give it a little shake. If you hear something that sounds abnormal, you know, that doesn't sound like it belongs there, I've picked up lenses that had like this bit of a rattle. Now you will, if your lens has got image stabilization, you will have a little bit of a rattle there. But what you're listening for is anything that sounds abnormal. If there's something that sounds like it's been broken off, like a bit of plastic or metal inside the lens, which has come dislodged or broken, you'll hear it rattling around and it won't sound right. You can either but if the lens still performs, you might still want to go ahead with the purchase. It's completely up to you. I bought lenses which are like that, but yeah, it's like, but when it comes to selling on, you might not be able to sell it on. You might have to sell it for scrap, or you know, or you might have to sell it really cheap as parts only, or for repair, or yeah. So if you're putting a bit of money on it, yeah, definitely do a good check and give it a good rattle out. Also, when it comes to checking the use of the lens, have a look at the elements, see if there's any scratches or marks on the outside of the lens. So it's normally alright if there's a scratch or something on the front element. It's more of a problem when it comes to the rear element of the lens, because that will show up in your images. The front element, not so much, unless you get like a direct light source, you know, like the sun or something that hits that, then it will sometimes show up, but very rarely it will. But yeah, that's something to be cautious of. What else? Have I gone over a lot of stuff already? I'm not going to go over cameras as well, just a little bit, because we've got some of the same aspects to it. Check everything works on the lens. So yeah, make sure the aperture works as well. So I'll grab a lens. I'll probably grab the 150 to 300, the 150 lens. I'll put it on my camera now, and I'll show you what I mean. So what you want to be doing is making sure the aperture blades are functional. There can be times when the cable there's a ribbon cable inside some lenses. More the older style, they've got a, hang on, have I got it? Like my Leica, I don't know if this is going to show it up, but it's got a manual aperture thing on the back. So if I zip, oh no, it's probably not going to show it up, it's probably too small. Hang on, let's see, no, it's too small to see. But if I turn my camera on here, you should be able to see the aperture blades. So if I get this in the right light, oh yeah, so I've got mirror lock up and you can sort of see those aperture blades at the front there. So if I've got mine at 3.2 at the moment. Oh no, I've got it f12, sorry. So you can see the aperture blades closing right down there. I'm just pressing the aperture preview on my camera. If I bring it down to 3.2, which is its maximum aperture, it very rarely clicks in because it doesn't need to do much adjusting. Then if I go to f45, which this lens goes to, you can see how small that aperture closes down to. So that's what you want to check, and you want to go through the motion. So with most cameras have an aperture preview button. If you can press that on your camera, or I think some of the Sony lenses, some of the Nikon lenses, you can actually go through it manually and enable the aperture to show. So what I like to do is go back through the apertures and just make sure it works for every single one. That way I know that it's not going to be jammed, it's not binding, and certain apertures don't work. Also take some test images, make sure the aperture actually changes the exposure each time you go through. So yes, start wide open, go to maybe f5.6, f9, f13, f16, f22, and make sure it's actually changing that exposure as you go through. So yeah, that's another thing. What else? Let's have another little look. We've done the light source. I'm just going through my little list here that I've got. Check everything works on the lens. When you go along, make sure you take a camera so you can test out the lens. So not just taking the photos, but also check the focus, make sure the IS works, so make sure it enables and you know, you can see the noticeable difference. Turn it off, see what it looks like, then turn it on and make sure there's a difference. When it comes to focus on something close to you, then focus off into the distance. Make sure there's no real grinding noises as well when you're hearing the focus. You want to hear it nice and smooth. Some of the older lenses, some of the like Sigma DG lenses, the old stuff, you could really hear those focus. But the newer lenses, they're much more quiet. You'll still hear something, unless it's like something like these lenses, like the Canon M series lenses or some of the newer lenses. They focus by wire, so they're all electronic. So this doesn't really make a difference, and it's basically quiet because of the way it focuses due to the focus mechanism. Anyway, yeah, what else? So yeah, focus on something close to you and far away, and just make sure it focuses nicely and accurately, and also take a photo and make sure it has nailed that focus. Sometimes if a lens has been dropped or mistreated, it doesn't actually show up on the outside of the lens, it shows up on the inside, and you'll see that it looks either a bit soft, or maybe it's done a little bit back focus, or it's something just doesn't, it just doesn't look clear. Maybe there can be a bit of a misalignment, you know, you can see like a bit of a ghosting around the subject. So if you've got a bit of a chair and it's normally got a hard edge, then you might see a little bit behind it. Even stop it down to, say if you've got it shooting wide open at say f2.8, stop it down to f11, and if it's still doing that, then there's a problem with the lens element and it could be a costly thing to get fixed. Right, just have another little look. Make sure the advertise, it meets the description meets the advertisement of what's being sold. Make sure the overall condition is fine. We've done that. Extreme damage. I've gone over like if it's been well used and if it's been damaged, then what to look for. Give the lens a shake. Yeah, make for certain sounds. Point light. Yeah, there's not a huge amount to do. Also, when it comes to buying camera bodies, do the same thing. You know, do a bit of the shake thing. You might hit with the DSLRs, you'll hear a bit of a rattle. With newer camera bodies with in-body stabilization, they'll normally rattle as well. But you just listen for anything that sounds a bit abnormal. Also, what you can do, what I recommend you do as well, you can also tell how the camera's been used and how and it's been cared for, is looking at the sensor. So I'm going to turn off my Hasselblad here, but I'm going to show you with basically the Canon. So with Canon, you basically go into the menu system, make sure you've got a full battery when you do so, or at least half. You know, so you've got something reasonable, but you're not going to go in there and touch around or anything. Go into the sensor cleaning function on the camera, and then switch into like a mirror lockup and stuff, and just have a look and see if you can see the sensor. What I tend to use is I'll either use my phone or a bright light here, and I'll just put my light into that and just have a little look around. Just make sure it's like free of fingerprints, any like because some people actually reach into their camera and think they can actually clean it or get rid of a bit of debris, and then they leave an oil mark, and that can be if it's a really bad oil mark, then it will actually mark the sensor, and it can't be cleaned, or not the sensor but the filter in front of it, and then that can be a costly fix. So yeah, yeah, just have a look around, make sure there's no like hairs or, you know, just or scratches or anything like that. Normally there's a little bit of dust, which isn't too bad. You can either, if you're used to cleaning your gear like myself, I do all my own sensor cleans. It's nothing to really worry about for myself, so I can clean a sensor in about 2 minutes. But normally, if you're not used to it, then you'll have to go in and get it sent off to get cleaned professionally. But yeah, I'll just give a general little check over that. It's more, you can also, if you like the Hasselblad, so, and like phase 1 and stuff, you can go in, you can actually remove the backs on these, which is what I really like, and it makes it so much easier to clean. So let me just show you how I do that. So down here, I'll just have it out of view. remove the viewfinder, make sure everything is all right in there as well, check your focus screen, and yeah, so I can detach the back, and there is my lovely sensor. So what I have noticed since I got this, now I bought my Hasselblad used, and I bought it from America. I couldn't see the original photos, they sadly didn't give it, but this was from B&H, and they said the overall condition was like an 8++, it was basically really good condition. The sensor was a bit dirty when I got it back, but I've noticed there's one speck of dirt that I cannot budge. It seems to be settled into the sensor. I can't clean it no matter how much I try, and I'm not going to try too much because I could cause more damage. So I've cleaned the bulk of it. I've basically got one speck or a couple of specks of dirt, and the rest is completely clean. So yeah, that's a nice way of little looking, and you can easily look at these. I get just a little bit of light, or even just get a bit of sunlight, and I just get my light on the side here, and I can actually just look across the sensor and look for anything that stands out. And also it's good for checking to see if you've got any fungus or stuff like that as well. If you've got fungus and stuff, then yeah, probably best not to buy the lens or buy the camera. But yeah, and that's about everything really. Hopefully you found this useful. And when it comes to also buying gear, now there's a couple of places I recommend it. Now eBay can be a bit sketchy. You don't really know, it's a bit of a risk. As I'm going through this, I've just come to this bit here, so I thought I'd grab my phone out and just you know, say a little bit here. Yeah, because I've got my camera there and I'm just processing it quickly now, so hopefully you don't mind. And we've turned off all the lights, so I'm just using the window as the lighting. Yeah, make sure you check over the seller's rating and reviews and see how much they've sold, because that can be a really good indication if they're a good seller or if they're a bad seller. If they probably very new to eBay, don't have any ratings, haven't really sold much, then maybe stay clear. Though I can understand, yeah, yeah, they haven't had much experience on eBay. They can get good ratings from buying stuff as well. I like to keep everything clean and make sure I've got everything well presented when it comes to selling stuff. I don't sell much on eBay when it comes to gear, but it just allows me a bit further reach. But yeah, if you're not sure as well, also be careful of import costs into your country, customs, tax and everything. So that's another thing to consider. Anyway, back into the video. But most of the time that I bought stuff on eBay, it's been fine. And there is eBay protection. They protect a lot of, they don't do too much for sellers, which is a shame, but they care more about people buying. So you've got, if the description doesn't match the lens exactly how they say it, so if they say the lens is fully functional and everything, and you get it and it's not functioning, you can dispute that and you can get your money back and send the lens back. So yeah, you're protected there. B&H, I'm pretty sure they have like a warranty, or if anything goes wrong or anything, you're protected there. Another place I recommend is MPB in, well, I was going to say England, but they're based in Germany, they're based in America, France, England, not based in Australia, unfortunately. I have asked for them multiple times if they could set up a shop here, but sadly they haven't. Yeah, it would be good. I think there was a really good market for it here. Here, buying used gear can be a bit sketchy, or not sketchy. It's very hard to find gear, and also selling gear as well, because they buy your used gear and they check it out and everything and give you a really good price. And the reason why I bought out MPB as well and giving a bit more of a plug for that is I'm affiliated to them. So if you use the link down below, in the description, I get a little bit of money from that. That helps me out. But I've been using MPB since 2014 and I absolutely love them. Great company to buy gear from. I've bought Hasselblad stuff from them. I've bought a load of Canon stuff from them. Yeah, I've spent a few thousand, maybe $20,000 with them. I'm going to be using them in the future as well, and hopefully when I move back to England, I'll be working with them as well more there, and you know, buying gear, selling gear, buying gear, and yeah, going through it. But yeah, hopefully you've found this video enjoyable and useful. It has been a bit of a long one. I might do another one of this, but if you've seen this now, then I was happy with this one. So yeah, if you've got any questions, be sure to drop it down in the comment section. I'll do my best to get back to you. It can be about what we've gone over, and I can give you some advice and everything. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you'd like to see more videos, be sure to subscribe. Anyway, I'm Simon, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Okay, bye for now.